Okay, it's time for Uncle Jimmy's advice line. Everyone, get around. We're going to sit by the campfire and I'm going to tell you a story. But it's a very important story because it meant the difference between my SMMA starting or failing at the gate. So if you're a person that's decided that SMMA is going to be your career, then you probably want to watch this. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so where this came from is a mate of mine who's moving into the SMMA space just asked me a question. Now, the interesting thing about this guy is he was much like myself. He's got commitments, he's got a stable job, but he really wants to make SMMA his new career. And much like myself 8 years ago, when I first started, for context, for those who don't know who I am, my name is Uncle Jimmy. My name's Jimmy. Everyone calls me Uncle Jimmy. I've been doing SMMA for 8 years. The service delivery coach over at Easy Grow, Charlie Morgan's course. If you haven't checked that course out, go and check it out. It's one of the best courses on the net for SMMA. But I'm an SMMA coach and I help a lot of people. And I just try and give advice based on my experience being in the trenches for so long, being a battle-hardened veteran of this space. So today's going to be a little bit more motivational, a little bit more general nature, a little bit about my story and how I got my head around taking a massive risk to start this agency. Now, I know there's a few guys here that maybe isn't as big a issue. You're not probably taking as big a risk, but the risk can be different things. For me, for instance, I was leaving a $200,000 a year job. For you, it might be leaving school or telling your parents you're going to leave school. And I think hopefully this video here today will help clarify a few things so you can go and just commit to it. Okay, so a little bit of background on me. I used to work in the agricultural space. I was in it for about 8 years, 7 years, something like that. And I was in the Navy before that. But when I decided that I wanted to go traveling with my family, like what we're doing today, I said to my wife, I can't do agriculture forever. I can't do this forever because we're never going to be able to have the life that we want to have. And I think it's worth understanding the drive and the reason you want to start an SMMA specifically. Now, a lot of you young bucks and young bloods out there, it's about the bowler, it's about the Lambo and stuff like that. Generally, it's something more deep. And a lot of it's got to do with freedom, having freedom to do and choose what you want to do. And that for me was a big thing that I couldn't get working for someone else, having come from a corporate career to the SMMA space. So this was about 8 years ago. Anyway, I told my wife, I know nothing about this space, so I'm just going to have to commit to learning to it. And that's what I did for about 6 months, got some clients. And then in that 6 month period, I told my boss that I was going to leave the job. They needed 6 months to replace me because it was quite a high level job. And 6 months later rolled around, they hadn't replaced me at that point. So I was in this weird position where I had 3 or 4 clients. 3 clients actually is what I had. And I had a part-time job because they couldn't really place me just yet. So they asked me if I could work part-time, get paid the same amount, work part-time, just till they find someone else. So I was in this weird position where I was like, through sheer luck, I was running an SMMA that was making no money pretty much because I had an office at that point. And I had a job that was paying me 200 grand a year and I was only working 20 hours a week. You think it would be the perfect solution, right? Just do that, make some money and then transition over. But I did about a week and a half of that. And I really had this existential crisis. So what happened was I had a client call me up when I was supposed to be working for the company I worked with, and I didn't pick it up because obviously this guy's paying me a lot of money. The company's paying me a lot of money. I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing by him. So I didn't pick up the call and I got it as soon as I finished. And he's, oh, it's a bit late now. I really needed you there and then. And that happens in the SMMA space. Sometimes you just have things that you got to sort out. Their website went down of all things. So I got home, spoke to my wife and said, this isn't working. It's too easy. I've got too easy a gig. Like the agency is always going to be a hobby and it's only going to get part of my attention when all of our income comes from one source and it's not the agency. I had a really soul searching conversation. And at that point in time, the agency was making $4,500 a month. So it wasn't making much money. And I said to my wife, I need to commit to this. If I'm going to do this, I can't just have 1 foot in the corporate world and 1 foot doing SMMA. It's not going to work. I have to burn the boats. And that was the single best advice I ever got given, is actually from my dad. When I spoke to my dad about this, and he said that you've got to pick, you can't do both. Eventually they're going to clash and you burn both bridges. And this burn the boats concept actually comes from the Vikings. So anecdotally, what the Vikings used to do, the raiders, when they landed in another country or another beach, they would go and burn their boats. So the only direction they had to go was forward. So I'm not talking about burning bridges. There's a lot different burning bridges. You don't want to do that, but you want to basically burn the boats behind you. So you only have one direction to go and that's forward. So as soon as I did that, everything changed in my life. Honestly, everything. Once I got that mentality that I'm either fully committed to this or not doing it at all, everything changed for me. So I got more clients. I started working because the way I looked at it logically was like, I have 40 hours a week. If I just do the minimum amount of hours, I have 40 hours a week. If I can't get more clients in 40 hours of time a week, then I really shouldn't be doing this. And that's exactly what happened because I had no other choice. I have a wife, kids, and mortgage. What am I supposed to do? I can't just go backwards. And what I said to myself is we were lucky because we were pretty okay because we had a lot of savings. So I was able to eat into the savings until it grew. But what I said to my wife is if I can't get this to work, I'm going to do with the boat to burn. I can't go back now. I will just go work night fill at a hardware store or go and work at a gas station. I'll do whatever. The boat's a burn. I'm going in this direction, and that's the direction I'm going, for better or worse. I think, and this is what we were having a conversation about, is if I hadn't gone and burnt those boats, even if it was just the mindset of burning the boats, I don't think I would be in the position I am today in regards to running an agency that's doing 7 figures. I just don't think it wouldn't have happened because I would have been subconsciously going, well, it's never going to make the money that the old job did. And I would have been like that. The way I looked at it when I burnt those boats was like, this is my new life. I'm basically starting from scratch. I'm not going back to what I was doing. Never. Choosing not to do that consciously. This is my new career path. And this is what I'm doing. And I'm basically at entry level. So what did I do when I first started in my previous career at entry level is I busted my ass and I worked really hard and I succeeded and moved up the corporate ladder. There's no reason this agency can't do the same. When I had those days where I was looking at a bank check at a bank account and going, oh my God, I'm spending like $4,000 or $5,000 a month of my own cash to get this agency off the ground. I was like, am I making the right decision? And when I had days like that, it was really that mentality of burning the boats that got me through them because I was like sitting there having a beer going, I'm making the wrong decision. I could get my job back. And then I would just sit there and contemplate and go, is that the life I really want to live? Is that the life I really want to live? Do I really want to have half-assed this agency and then go back to my corporate world and think about what I could have done and what I could have achieved? And that's what I was saying to my wife. At least if we go all the way down this path and blow through this cash and it doesn't succeed, at least I can put my hand on my heart on my deathbed and go, I gave it a good crack and it wasn't for me. And there's so many people out there that just regret that in life. They don't just go, yeah, it's risky to go and leave a really high paying job to start something brand new that doesn't have any guarantee of success. It's very risky. But where do I want to be in life ultimately? Do I want to be working 40 years for someone else and jaded and gray? And some people love that, but it wasn't for me. And it was that thought process of this is who I am now. The old Jimmy who was working corporate 9 to 5 is dead. He's gone. This is the new Jimmy. The boats are burnt. He sat on the old Jimmy was on one of those boats as one of those Viking funerals, just blown up in a pyre. The new Jimmy is sitting on the beach, walking into the enemy's territory, trying to take and plunder villages. That's what it felt like to me. And that's how I visualized it in my head. So once I had that mentality of nothing's going to stop me at this point, I have no other choice but to make this work, everything changed. Now, what about for you young bloods out there that maybe don't have the commitments? This is something I see in the Easy Grow course a lot, is that you have guys that have really good intentions of running an agency, but aren't necessarily doing the actions that are required to start an agency and make it successful. Cold calling is a very good example of that. You get people that make all kinds of excuses about cold calling, and then they're like, why don't I do it? And it's that mentality, guys. The mentality is what's killing you. You hear people talk about this killer mentality, and that's what it is. A lot of you guys are like the idea of running an agency and like the idea of the freedom it gives, but don't want it enough. Let's be completely honest and pragmatic about that. I'm not here to sugarcoat it. I'm Uncle Jimmy. I'm here to give you straight shot advice. You don't want it enough, ultimately. That's what it comes down to. You don't have that burn the boats mentality of, look, I understand I live with my parents, but that old person that is dead, I am going in this direction and nothing's going to stop me because that person's dead. You don't have that mentality. You like the idea of that, of what the agency and SMMA will give you, but you don't want it enough. Let's be completely honest. You don't want it enough, because if you did want it enough, you would do the work that's required to make it happen. Go hell or high water. It's a mental discipline thing. It's nothing else. And if you're young, you haven't probably been in a position where that's had to happen. When you got one foot in the life that you have at the moment and one foot in the future of where you want to be, you'll never succeed. You've got to basically jump in with both feet and just hope you land in the right spot. Honestly, The people that get all the rewards in this space are the people that take risk and really put in the effort and work. So if you're not succeeding in the SMMA space, be honest to yourself and go, have I burnt the boats and do I really want this? Because there's a whole bunch of people in this space that just like the idea of it, but aren't willing to put in the work required as if it was your only option. And that's where I'm grateful, because it was easy for me to do that because it was my only option. Once I left my job and I committed to it, I still had a wife, kids, and mortgage. I had to make this work if I didn't want to go and work for someone else ever again. Whereas if you are living with your parents or you're at school, you don't need to make this work, but you need to get to the mentality that it's do or die. But don't make this work. Everything in my life falls over. Everything in my future falls over. Everything I want in life falls over if I don't make this work. And you just have to do everything you possibly can to make it work. I know you have school. I know you have commitments. I know you have a part-time job, but you have to make it work. If you don't have the 8 hours a day to do the agency, then make 8 hours a day. Get home from school, stop playing your fucking Xbox, stop playing with your mates on Warzone, and go and put in the work. Go and put in the reps. Because if you don't, you just won't succeed. I can't be any more honest than that. And the person who asked me this question, this is specifically for you. You have commitments. You have to make this work. It's not a matter of, I have to work hospitality and I do this during the day. You have to make it work. What other choice do you have now? You've burnt the boats, which is what you need to do. And you just need to keep pushing up the shoreline and really make it work. Guys, hopefully that's helpful. If you like this kind of video, it's a little bit more like, come on, get off your ass and let's get it done. Let me know, because I enjoy making videos like this. But honestly, guys, I attribute a lot of the success I have to that point in time where I had to make that decision, and I killed off the old Jimmy, put him on the pyre, let him burn, and started running up the shore trying to plunder and loot and pillage. Because honestly, SMMA is a little bit like that. You are looting, but if you're standing on the shore and the other Vikings are running up there and taking all the plunder before you, and you're like, oh, I'm a bit worried, I'm going to run around the corner and there's someone there that might attack me. You just got to run up there and just bash the door down and start hacking and slashing. If you don't do that, you will lose out and you won't have the life that you want long term. So guys, thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.